Hi everybody, how is everyone? What is everybody up to? So I'm Charlotte, I'm the fertility coach. If you haven't watched my other videos, please head over and watch them. There are my top 10 tips for getting pregnant. There's some stuff about my story. I'm hugely passionate about not being ashamed of your infertility. So I suppose my plan in my business, in this channel, in everything I do really, is to hopefully be able to do something that you can relate to and resonate with. So the whole point of me doing this is because I've been through it myself. So whilst our journeys may have been slightly different, it will have been the same feelings of heartbreak, of heartache, of torment, of torture, for me, I'm really honest about the fact that I felt very bitter, angry, nasty, all of those things. I'm certainly not someone who will sugarcoat everything, that's not me. But tonight what I wanted to talk about was work, life and school and college or university or whatever it is that you're doing, whatever your life is and how it's affected, and some of the things that come up with that. So for me, some of the things that came up for me quite often were mainly work life, because school was much easier to hide it. You know, how bad my periods were and how I felt, because you know, at school everything sort of got blamed on like hormones, and if I didn't feel well I could sort of sometimes blag my mum with it, and you know, I'd go to the toilet in between lessons and I didn't really feel so much like I had to answer to people. Whereas when you go to work, you feel very, you feel like you've got to answer to someone, and you have, because they're employing you. So for me in school, you know, there was instances where it was embarrassing and, you know, that there was blood on things, but I could generally hide it quite well. But other than like the dreaded PE and swimming, and I'm sure the teacher used to think I was lying every week when I gave her a note off my parents and said, Charlotte can't do swimming again this week. But when I went to work, I hadn't got the security blanket of my parents there anymore. I hadn't got the security blanket of like an understanding teacher there. I'd got to, for the first time, really go and offload all of this stuff to somebody and present this stuff to someone, and really, you know, at the age of 16, you know, I left school and went and got a job, and that's what I did. So fast forward a few weeks into that job and period came around, and for months I just tried to sort of get along with it, and I went through a particularly bad spell where all my clothes were always like, I had to keep taking sets of spare clothes, and then people started to notice, because people notice, don't they? Not maybe that you don't feel well, but they notice a change in clothes halfway through the day. And there was instances where someone would say, oh Charlotte, I'm sure you had a skirt on this morning, you've got trousers on this afternoon, or I'm sure you had a different top and something on. So it's then starting to explain yourself. And then also the fact of, I'm quite a pale person anyway, always have been, but it would be, you know, in that time I'd look even worse, and you know, a few people have said to me, God, you look grey, and it would then be trying to explain, like, yeah, this is what's happening. And the amount of people, and I know that a lot of people get this, that go, oh no, yeah, I have really bad periods too. And it's then the choice of, do I say, well actually no, it's not just a really bad period, it's endometriosis, or do I just smile and go, oh yeah, it's not very nice, is it? And just sort of think, well, there's no point, it's not their problem. But then if you don't educate people and you don't tell people, then how are they going to know the next month when you look the same or worse, you feel the same or worse, and there's no change. And I do think that in general, one of my biggest bugbears about the whole thing is the lack of knowledge. And that, I think, comes from an education system. and the lack that's around that, the lack of information that's around the education system, but also the lack of empathy that people go, oh, it's just a bad period. Well, do you know what? Even just a bad period can knock you off your feet. So just a bad period to somebody is no help. It's not beneficial. It's not going to help anybody feel better or feel stronger or just go, oh yeah, you know, what am I on about? Of course I feel fine. It's not going to help that. So that was one of the biggest things for me. And then came the, you know, I was at work day in, day out, which was fine. But then came the times where I would have normally been at school and it would have been a little bit easier because it was less hours. I hadn't got to travel so far to and from. It was public transport, so I'd be on public transport. And there is no worse feeling, is there, of when you've got a bad period and you feel, I always say I feel like smelly and sticky and just there. And then you've got to go and sit at work all day. So there's that, and then you become quite within yourself, and then I started to get invited on nights out through work, and sometimes I would go, sometimes I just wouldn't. Just the work day had drained everything from me, so I'd say I'm not going, and then there becomes this assumption then, and this stigma that, oh, you know, she's not very sociable, she doesn't come to things all the time, and, you know, sometimes she's fine and other times she's not, and the reality of the matter is sometimes I felt okay, and other times it's all I could do to drag myself to work every day. So it's really hard when you go from one thing to another. So whether that's that you are in a job where they understand and empathise and know your condition or your diagnosis or your story, wherever you are, whether it be that you go and change job or change from school to university or, like me, school to job or something like that. And people will say that it always, you know, it affects people when they're trying to conceive and get pregnant, when you talk about endometriosis or any other condition. But people generally just assume that it's painful periods and you might struggle to get pregnant. That's what most people will say. And whilst, yes, that's just two of the very small factors that it caused for me, it caused a whole heap of other things. So it caused problems at school. It caused problems with friends because sometimes I was there, sometimes I wasn't. Sometimes I'd make plans and then I couldn't stick to them. So it caused problems in relationships. It caused problems with work, with jobs. It caused problems with myself, my mental health, my self-worth, because I felt, even just things like, I remember being 16 and starting this job and thinking, oh, do I smell? Look. Just so much anxiety about things. So it doesn't just affect bad periods, it's not just a bad period, it doesn't just affect your periods and you trying to conceive. So I think people think that, like, there's this massive gap. And there isn't. There's you starting to have your periods, or certainly in my case, starting to have your periods, this whole other whirlwind of stuff that never dies down, or it might die down for a week in between, at the very most, and then whirls back up again, then dies down for a week, whirls back up again. And that was literally all the way through, straight to me trying to get pregnant with Remy. So it never dies down. And when people say like that, a lot of the clients that I work with when I'm doing the coaching will say that I'm mentally exhausted, and people often say, sometimes I call it ignorance, but let me be clear on this. Ignorance is people who don't understand but don't want to. They've already made their mind up about something. They're the people who are the bad, oh, it's just a bad period, or get on with it. That's, to me, ignorant. But there is some general ignorance, and that isn't because those people aren't nice or aren't sympathetic or haven't got any empathy for you. That is just lack of knowledge and lack of understanding, lack of education, and again, that's not down to them. That's down to our education system. But those are the people that when you start to speak to them and explain, do then start to understand. So that isn't ignorance, but you've got a whole whirlwind of people, and people will sort of say to me, well, oh yeah, you know, okay, it might be tiring, like, physically, because you're losing blood and, you know, your period can drain you a little bit, but how is it mentally draining? How is it, like, emotionally draining? Well, it's mentally draining because you're physically and emotionally drained already, and you and your mind are just running like 5 million miles an hour, thinking of what's the doctor going to do this time, what's the gynaecologist going to do this time, are they going to do anything? With me, it was always, if they give me this one type of tablet one more time, I'm going to shove it somewhere. Because they tried to give me mefenamic acid every single time I went, and I tried it every single time, and it never did one thing for me. It never helped me at all. So it's mentally exhausting, and then when it came to trying to conceive, that completely just blew my mind and made the mental health side of it way worse. So that's the mental health. Emotionally, you tell somebody that they can't or may not be able to have a baby, may have trouble conceiving, that they may have to have a hysterectomy, that the only thing you can do is a hysterectomy, that pretty much they can only really deal with, this is it, you've got to deal with it, or that's it. And that was one of the things that was said to me when I was about 25, that, okay, well, your only option to help with the pain is going to be hysterectomy. I was trying for a baby. Like, the two don't add up, they don't come hand in hand. So it is all of those factors. It's physically, mentally and emotionally draining. And then when you put on top of that work or university or college or school or whatever it is that you're doing, then I can completely take my hat off to you as to why you are absolutely drained and exhausted by the end of each day. So if you have had any struggles with like work, school, home life, whatever it is, whatever adaptations it is you need to make, it's some of the things that we talk about in the coaching programs of, okay, tell me your day-to-day life and how it affects you. For me, it was things like holiday. So, you know, we work all year and save to go on holiday, but I could never go in the pool, hardly ever. Even now, very rarely do I get to go on a 2-week holiday and be able to go in the pool every day. Very, very rarely. We went to Gran Canaria on holiday last year in March for a week when we were renovating our house, and we purposely booked this really relaxing week, this really relaxing hotel, because we were renovating the house when we were working in the day and then coming here and working on the night to try and do it up, and we'd got a 4-year-old, so it was hard, and I couldn't go in the pool or the sea once. And Remy at the time was 3, nearly 4, and she's saying, oh Mum, can you come in the pool? Mum, can you come in the water? And I can't. And that's not me just, oh I can't because I'm on a period, when people go, oh yeah, we'll use the Tampax. I can't, it's not that simple. I've got a reverted uterus, so I can't use it, but B, if you, and you will know if your periods are that heavy and that, you know, drain you that much like mine do, that wouldn't stop you. Like, so then you're walking around holiday and you've paid all this money to go on a holiday and you just feel dreadful. You can't do what you want to do, you feel exhausted, but you're putting that smile on because you're on holiday and that's what everyone expects from you. So it does impact everything, and I'm a huge believer in making sure that that is understood, because I do think, like I said, that there's this thing of you're impacted when you're diagnosed, or you know, you're younger and your periods start, and then you may be impacted when you try and conceive. No, you're impacted the whole way through, every step of the way, every month at least. So if it is something you are struggling with and you do want some more help with, then please feel free to contact me. If you don't follow me, on Facebook I'm the Fertility Coach, and on Instagram I'm Fertility Coach UK. On my YouTube, if you haven't already subscribed, it's Charlotte the Fertility Coach. And I just talk generally about my life and hopefully have something that you can link with and relate to. But if there's anything in particular you want to discuss or you want me to discuss, then please comment below. Thank you.